right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and formally get started. I'm going to formally get started. My name is Leti Terrones. I'm a librarian here at Cal State L.A. And every other Tuesday or so, we provide a workshop on research skills for college. And we focus in specific on what are called information literacy skills, which basically means the type of search skills and critical questions that students who are doing college level research or academic research typically ask when they're evaluating sources. And so if you've been attending these webinars, we've already done several of these where we've covered some basics. And then today's workshop is going to be sort of, a level up from the basics that we've done. And we're going to concentrate on subject databases and looking at journals. And so we call it subject databases, journals at your fingertips. So I want to go ahead and list what are the goals for today. So the main goal for today, there are three. I want us to understand how databases are organized, and in particular, databases that are organizing scholarly information, because all of us are in college and all of us are searching for scholarly information to use in our classes. And the next thing that we're going to focus on are different types of searching language. We're going to talk about controlled vocabularies, keywords, and natural languages, natural language searching, and when it's when to use all of those three. And then the last thing we're going to do is database tools to manage searching processes and results effectively. Basically, what that means is we're going to cover the different sort of universal tools that all of these databases, no matter what they are called or what subject they cover, they all have very basic, or not basic, but like sort of the same tools that allow you to save articles, email them to yourself, etc. So we're going to cover those. All right. So at any point during the workshop, please go ahead and, let us know in the chat, or you can raise your hand as well if you have any questions. So what we're going to cover first are what are databases and what are scholarly journals. Then I'm going to go into the difference between keyword searching and natural language searching, which is important to know because all of us use Google, and mostly what we're doing in Google is natural language searching. So we're going to distinguish between those two. Then I'm going to do some examples to show you how to find the databases for your subject area. And I'm also going to do here in the number 3, the sort of deep dive into the different ways to search academic databases, subject databases. Then we're going to talk about controlled vocabulary, and then we're going to, sort of recap some of the tools. The tools I'm going to sort of show you along the way as we go forward. And we have a Q&A at the end. So sometimes students will stick around if they have a particular question they want to ask about their own research area or topic that they're working on. All right, so what exactly is a database anyway? We all use databases, I can guarantee you. Even if you haven't used any of the Cal State L.A. databases, I almost can guarantee that you've already used a type of database. So throw me in the chat, pick one of these, either A, B, C, or D, and let me know your answer. A library database can include A, statistics and data, B, peer-reviewed articles, C, images and videos, or D, all of the above. What do you think? Okay, so I'm seeing a predominance of the correct answer. That's right. That's right, all of the above. So the way I like to think about databases is like, think of a warehouse or like a huge mansion, let's say, or a warehouse. And in there, you keep stuff, you store particular things. So databases are cloud-based. And for instance, all of us have probably watched something like Netflix or Hulu or something very similar. Those are types of databases. And what Netflix keeps inside of it are movies and TV shows, Hulu the same. Well, in library databases, what we keep inside of our databases, which by the way, we have about 400 databases at Cal State L.A., are materials that are directly like academic materials that are directly there to support our students' academic projects and papers and things like that. So what you're going to find in our databases are all the sort of scholarly materials and also other sort of like streaming media and primary sources, all of the material, all the stuff that you need to cite in order to prove evidence to support your papers or your projects. Okay, so that's basically what's a database. All right, but what exactly is a journal? Because databases and journals go together. So in a database, you're going to have all of these journals stored in them. But what exactly is a journal? So to kind of get to this answer, the answer of that question, I want to ask a secondary question. What makes something scholarly? Is it that A, it's being written by a professor? B, is that it's being on a university website? Or C, it's well written? Or D, the peer-reviewed process? So what do you think is the answer to this question? And this question is going to get to the main question that I asked about what are journals. Okay, so I'm seeing an A, I'm seeing A, I'm seeing B, I'm also seeing D. Okay, so what is something that's scholarly? Yeah, something that's scholarly could be written by a professor, but not necessarily. So like, for instance, you can have a research scientist who works in a lab, who is not necessarily like working as a professor, and they may have written something scholarly. So I'm even thinking off the top of my head right now, when President Obama was president, President Obama wrote several scholarly articles during his presidency, and he wasn't technically a professor. So that might be the case, that a professor might be writing scholarly information. And in fact, that's often the case, but it's not a necessary component. The university website also contains all sorts of information, like we have an announcement for Library Live, let's say, or our other campus events. And that's not necessarily like scholarly information, even though it is located on our website. And then some people might argue that not all scholarly material is well written. And so the right answer to this is the peer-reviewed process. And so the peer-review process basically involves this sort of review process that you're seeing on the screen. It's a circular process where scholars who have gone out into the field or conducted some sort of research, the research could also be sort of what's called sometimes desk research, where you're just kind of reading and looking up information in databases, let's say, and then coming up with either a review article or a theoretical piece or something like that. But you're not necessarily going out into the community or into the field to do this research. That's still very valid research. The point is that the scholars are going to write articles that they want to have published in journals. And so once they finish writing their article, they're going to send it to the journal. And then it's going to go to part 2. The editors of that journal are going to say, thanks so much for your submission. We're going to send it out to anonymous peer reviewers who are going to provide their feedback and commentary on the work that you've written, the study you've conducted. And then in about a few weeks later, the reviewers will send back their commentary, and then the original authors will take a look at that. Feedback, and then usually what they'll do is a revise and resubmit. So that's part 3. You'll see those little arrows there on the side, and then they rewrite their work and make it stronger. And then they send it back to the editors, and then it finally gets published. And when it gets published in these academic journals, which are then located inside of our databases. So if you're wondering, like, what are the journals that go with my disciplinary area, this is a really cool way to do it. You can literally go to Google and type in Google Scholar and then your subject area. So go ahead and in the chat right now, let me know what sort of major are you studying? What's your major at Cal State L.A.? Or perhaps what's your disciplinary area? And I'm going to show you an example of how to do this specific search. Okay, so I'm seeing studio art, sociology, nurse practitioner. Okay, so in this example, you're seeing child development. So let's say that I'm studying pre-nursing, okay, or nurse practitioner. What I would do in here in a basic Google Scholar search is I would type in Google, or a basic Google search, I would type in Google Scholar, and then I would do nursing journals, okay? So it's already sort of making that happen for me. And then Google Scholar has this cool thing called Google Scholar Metrics, where they provide a list of all of the journals that are sort of top ranked by what's called an H factor, which I'm not going to get into right now. But they're sort of the top ranked journals in nursing. Okay, so let me do that search again, and I'm going to try now another student's major. And you could probably do this on your own. So here I am in Google, and the key is to do Google Scholar. And the reason you want to do Google Scholar is because Google Scholar is different from just regular Google. I'm going to show you kind of a regular Google search in a second. But Google Scholar is it does the same sort of searching that Google does, except it's searching for just academic materials. Okay, so I'm going to pick sociology. And then you'll see that what I'm looking for is sociology Google metrics. But this one you might also consider as well some classic papers. Those are like the canonical texts or the classic papers you should know about or have some familiarity with as you start developing your major, your disciplinary area. Okay, and so here again, they are ranked by H index. And you'll see that the American Psychological Review is like the top journal. Basically, the higher the journal, the harder it is to get it published, and probably the longer it is to get it published on this sort of timeline right here. Okay, because sometimes it'll take like 8 months to get your article published in, let's say, the American Sociological Journal. And then other times it might take a longer time. And usually the longer time is determined by how hard it is, how difficult it is to get your article published in a journal. All right, so I'm curious about studio art, because that's one that I've never searched before. So if you would allow me, I'm just going to do a basic Google search, right? Here I am in Google, and I'm going to do Google Scholar and then studio art. Let's put studio arts. Okay, so this is interesting because here, there's also those classic papers, which the student who wrote that, I recommend that you take a look at some of those classic papers. But then the subject area or the disciplinary area in this case is called visual arts. So here again, you see that sort of list of journals. Does that all make sense? You could throw me a thumbs up if it's making sense to you. And that's what those journals, when we're talking about journals, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about where are people who are, scholars in my disciplinary area, in my major, where are they publishing? And as you become more, that's one of the things that will happen here at Cal State L.A. is sort of like you're running a marathon. Every semester you're conditioning, you're learning more and more about your major. So as you get, closer to that finish line in the marathon, you're going to know the journals that go with your subject area. Okay, so if you've done Library Live before or one of those workshops that we do for, specific classes, you've probably been familiar with OneSearch, which is kind of like our comprehensive database. It's called OneSearch because it has a comprehensive collection at Cal State LA, books, ebooks, articles, streaming media, basically everything that we have at Cal State LA. And keep in mind that during the pandemic and moving forward till today, we've been collecting a lot of ebooks and a lot of academic articles and journals to have available for our students, especially, you know, on an online environment. Okay, but we're not really going to focus on one search today because we want to get into these subject-specific databases that we've been talking about. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so how do I do that? You're from the Cal State LA webpage, you want to look for the tab that says journals. And then when you click on here, since I already know, like I've already looked up a Google metrics list of all my journals, now I have the name of my journals and I can look for like the most current studies that are being published in that specific journal. Okay, so like in visual arts, you know, you might look up the journal for visual arts and see if we have it. So if we have it, you're going to see that it's available online and that it's peer reviewed. Okay, so basically you're going to see the name of the journal at the top, and then you're always watching out for this little icon, peer reviewed. And then once you actually, let's say, go back here and then you click in here on the title of that journal, this is what you're going to see. And what you're going to see are several things. The title of the journal, you're going to see if it's verified as a peer-reviewed journal. Not all journals are peer-reviewed. Not all of them have undergone that circular, you know, process that we modeled earlier. And then you're going to see which of the databases is actually storing your journal. And you'll notice that this journal of child psychology and psychiatry and allied disciplines, Wiley Online has all of the issues from 1997 until present day. And then Wiley Online Library 2014 Perpetual Collection, that has all the journals from 1997 to 2014. EBSCO Academic Search Complete is another database, and it has all of the journals between 1998 and 2003. And that all has to do with just sort of like complex sort of contracts, database contracts and things like that, which, by the way, I want you to know, as a student at Cal State LA, you pay a lot of money, a lot of reg fees. So part of your registration fees goes towards paying into these contracts for these academic journals. And why do we need to pay for these contracts for academic journals? Because these journals, the scientific studies that are published in them that have undergone that peer review process, are not available for free on a typical Google search. And you have to pay for them. So make sure that you're using the journals because you're paying for them. Make sure that you're using your databases. Okay, what's the difference between natural language and keyword searching? All right, so when I'm in Google, I can type in an actual question like this, like, what impact has the pandemic had on children and learning? I just sort of said that naturally the way it came out in my mind, right? And I typed it out. What impact has the pandemic had on children and learning? And when I do a search like that, I'm doing what's called a natural language search because that's the natural language I'm using. And the algorithms in Google are able to handle it. However, the results are going to be very different from what I'm going to get when I do a database search in one of our Cal State LA subscription databases, subject databases. You'll notice here that the things that are coming up are something called Brookings, WeForum, HRW, KFF, UNICEF. Okay, I think I have heard of that before. NBC News, I have heard of that for sure before. OECD, what are these? Most of the time, what you're going to get when you do a Google search for something that you're looking for, like for academic stuff, like you're asking a natural language question for like an academic context, you're mostly going to get organizations, profit and nonprofit organizations. And when you do that, it's going to require you to do some extra determining of the credibility of these sources. Like KFF, what does that even stand for? I'd have to go into their website and find in their website their about page, figure out, you know, if they're a legitimate organization, things like that. And I want you to keep in mind that Google is a for-profit company. They're out to make money. In fact, they make like billions of dollars. and they have multiple different enterprises. The search engine is just one of the enterprises of Google. They also, work in online advertising, cloud computing, e-commerce, etc. So keep that in mind when, you're deciding, should I use a database or should I use, Google? Okay, so this visual is a visual of what that question, let me rewind it real quick so you can see my original question. What impact has the pandemic had on children and learning? Let's just say that's my area of study. I want to find that out. And so what I would do is I would break up my question into key chunks, what are called keywords. So I'm interested in the pandemic. I'm interested in learning children. And so when I do my search on this, what's going to happen, and this is an example of like an EBSCO database. This is called Academic Search Complete Database, and it's part of the EBSCO family. What it's going to do is it's going to pull up some sources. Mostly it's going to be academic sources. This is a peer-reviewed article. And then what it's going to do too, it's going to provide me with subject terms. These are the same subject terms, just that, I made them a little bit bigger. And you'll notice that one of the things that I'm going to want to pay attention to is like the word I'm using to describe learning is learning. But the subject term that the database is using could be educational attainment. That's the word that they're using, the phrase educational attainment, when they're when they're using it to describe learning. That's going to become key because one of the tricks to database, like savvy database searching, is your ability to locate the best keywords that describe the thing that you're looking for, the research you're looking for. Is that making sense so far, the difference between keyword and natural language? You could throw me a yes and a thumbs up. All right, very good. All right, you're going to see this a little bit more when we start doing some searching. All right, so let's go on to databases by subject. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to find the database for your subject area. And then I want you to throw into the chat, what are your top 3 databases? Okay, so how do I even do that? You're maybe asking, which is an excellent question to ask. So the way to do that is to go to the Cal State L.A. library. And then you're going to go roll right here to databases. Click on databases. This is the link for it. I'm just going to drop it here in case you want to bookmark the databases A through Z link. And then it's called A through Z because it has all of our databases, basically over 400 databases from A to Z, or A to W in this case. And then what you're going to do is use this little drop down menu here, and you're going to find your area. Okay, so the person who was doing sociology, I'm going to go here and find sociology, and I want you to I want you to put the name of just one or two. If you want, if you're ambitious, you could put 3. So I want you to find your subject area. I'm going to use child and family studies as sort of my example. And then go ahead and drop it into the chat. You can do something like child development studies. And then my main database that is recommended is ERIC. That's kind of what I want you to do. All right, so I'm going to model that for you again as you start typing in what's yours. All right, so here's the library. Databases, drop-down menu. Okay, and then for the person doing visual art, let me just go down here and see if there's any visual art. I don't think so. I think it's just going to be art. Okay, so nobody's putting in their major or their database. So how about, do you want to do it instead? Well, you've already dropped in your major. So let me just show you from some of the people that have added their major. Nursing. Okay, so here's nursing. Criminal justice. Where is criminal justice? There it is. Okay, all right, I think, okay, let me show you how to enter. you're going to want to start here at the Cal State L.A. library, okay? Step 1 is to click there. Then step 2 is to click here, databases. Do you see the tab, databases? And then once you click on databases, the link for the databases A through Z tab, which you're looking at right now, is this one. And then under all subjects, here's where you're going to click on the drop-down menu to find yours. Oh, okay. Is my mouse kind of confusing? Sorry about that. Okay, for criminal justice, there's a total of 31. Okay, so let me show you really quick on criminal justice. There are a total of 31, and you'll notice that the ones that are listed in this sort of yellow area, those are the most useful that are recommended for criminal justice. So academic search complete is one, communication source, criminal justice abstracts, criminal justice databases. So what I would recommend is if you're in that major, that you get familiar with searching in that major. All right, so let me show you my, let me show you this slide again. So this slide has sort of all of the screen grabs that will show you how to locate your subject databases by area. So you're gonna go to Cal State L.A. Library, databases. That's gonna get you to the A through Z. You're gonna click on the drop-down menu and, oops, sorry. Then you're gonna get to the databases. And you'll notice that each of the yes, the databases are the ones with the blue letters. That's right. You'll notice that the yellow area has like the recommended, the top most useful, but then there are other databases that are also useful. You'll also notice that there's a librarian that's assigned to that particular area. So you're always welcome to reach out to that librarian. You're also welcome to reach out to me. I can also help you sort of navigate these databases. All right, so now that you've located your database, let's go ahead and do some searching, okay? So, so let's say that I'm in child development studies, okay? So these are my databases. There's 11 that are recommended. The most useful, aside from Academic Writer, are ERIC and PsycInfo. Academic Writer is good for like all things APA. It's a good database to help me to learn how to research and write and publish in APA style. But the one I'm going to click on right now is ERIC. And the reason why is because inside of ERIC are tons of journal articles and reports and other documents that are related to education. Okay, so from here, I'm going to click on the blue link that says ERIC. All right. And so that's right, Mary. Yes. So let me show that again. So the ones that are, so when you click in here, let's say to child development studies, the ones that are in yellow are the recommended ones, like the top ones. For instance, if you're writing a paper in child development studies and you're taking like a 400 level course or a 300 level course, something like that, your professor is requiring you to cite 6 academic peer-reviewed journal articles as part of your paper. Your go-to would be ERIC or PsycInfo. Those are the most highly used in the most useful databases for the area of child development studies. Okay, the other ones, the ones that are down here are also really good, like Academic Search Complete, CINA, etc. All of these are also really good, but the top ones are in the yellow box. So, so I'm going to go ahead and do a search in ERIC. And then here's where I'm going to try that search again. Okay, so I'm interested in how learning has been impacted in the pandemic, or how learning in the pandemic has impacted like children learning. Yep, that's the same for every subject, Linda. If you want to, Linda, you can also type in your major and I can find the top databases for yours. I'm going to show you in just a second for counseling, okay? All right, so let's just do a quick search in ERIC. So learning and then pandemic. And I'm noticing like, oh, it's kind of asking me, do I want pandemic or COVID-19 or coronavirus? Whenever you get this sort of suggestion where it's combining the same or similar terms using or, I recommend to you that you do use those. Okay, so like, for instance, children or child or kids. And the reason why is because children. The reason why is because it's going to expand your search. And in fact, I think I saw a better one in here. Okay, so let's do this one. Let's include teenagers as well. Now I'm going to do a search. And keep in mind that I'm searching in ERIC, which is the top recommended database for child development studies. It's also one of the top databases for education studies. So I think there was a person in here, a student who's in special education, studying special education. ERIC is one of the top databases. All right, so from here, what I want to do is I want to start using some of these tools. Because we're focusing in today's workshop on peer-reviewed academic articles, I'm going to select peer-reviewed. And so I'm going to start working over here on the left-hand side with my filters. I also don't want anything else except for academic journals. And now I'm seeing that I have about 333 results. And I'm noticing too that these are kind of starting from 2004, which is interesting because the pandemic, you know, is a current thing. So if my professor is asking for like the last 10 years of research, I can use these dates, the date filter to update that as well. So then from 300 and something, it's come down a bit. And most of this research is going to be very contemporary because the pandemic started in 2020. And so from here, I'm going to see that I have, you know, these titles that if I click on them, it'll lead me to more articles. Okay, so for instance, number 3 is talking about parental involvement in remote learning during the COVID-19 pandemic, dominant approach and their diverse implications. If I want to read this article, I'm going to click on Find It. So I'm going to click on Find It, and then it's going to tell me the article should be available here. Okay, so I'm going to click on the blue link, and then it's going to take me to that article. And if I wanted to download this article, I would click here under the tools, PDF, and then it would lead me to the actual text of this article, which is pretty extensive. It's got several pages in there. Okay, so again, how did I do that? I clicked on Find It, and then from Find It, it took me to this page. And then the blue tabs here are saying the article you're looking for is located in this specific database called Wiley Online. And this is what Wiley Online looks like. Okay, so I would click there, and then it would take me to Wiley Online, and then I would go to PDF. All of these databases might look different, but they all have the same tools. The other thing I want you to keep in mind when you're doing a search like this and you get this sort of related reading on the side, this is kind of like that Netflix situation we were talking about earlier, where when you watch something in Netflix, it's going to say, oh, I noticed you watched that show. Here's some other shows that are similar to it based on your prior, viewing. So if you click on an article, the database is going to say, oh, I noticed you're interested in this topic. Here are some other recommended articles that you might consider that are also, on your topic. So when you're writing a paper where your professor is asking for 10, peer-reviewed articles or 6 peer-reviewed articles, this can be very helpful to you in tracking down related research or related reading. You would still have to go in here and check it out and see if this article is relevant to you. The blue tab, remember, in the middle is always going to tell you this is the redirect where the actual PDF of this article is located. And so then sometimes it works directly, like it has the exact article that you need. And then other times it'll take you to something like this where you would have to find this article. Okay, so let me go back here and answer some of the questions that are in the chat at this moment. Okay, so what database would I use for counseling? Okay, so I'm going to go to here, and then counseling is in the College of, can you type that in? Public health. Oh, is it in the charter college? So what I would recommend for counseling is, like, if I can't find counseling in here necessarily, what I would go to are what are called cognate disciplinary areas, like areas that are very similar and connected to counseling. So for instance, education or maybe psychology. So I would go to the psychology databases, and you're going to see that actually for psychology, the database that's recommended is PsycInfo. And I would also include in there, I would include ERIC as well. And if you roll down in here, you'll notice that there's also counseling and psychotherapy transcripts. So there's some other databases that are specific to counseling. Okay. Okay, very good. So keep writing the questions, because I'm gonna answer them. How do I cite the journal? I'm gonna answer that question. Pneumonia in the elderly versus the young. So that sounds maybe like a nursing one. So I would go to nursing. And then I would use CINA Plus for nursing. That would be the main journal I would use. And for music, let's go into music. And I would use Academic Search Complete. And actually, I'm going to search Academic Search Complete right now, because Academic Search Complete is one of those databases where it applies to, or it covers all the subject range areas that are that we study here at Cal State L.A. So my favorite database is Academic Search Complete. I'm putting the link to it right now. I recommend that you bookmark it. And the reason why is because it covers all the subject areas, from education to counseling to even like health topics and music. Okay, very good. So the other one is about substance abuse and incarceration. So maybe that one, what I would search for are the criminal justice abstracts for that one. Okay, but in the case of that one, let's just go ahead and type it, right? So substance abuse, and then I'm going to say, or substance abuse or drug addiction. I'm going to use the one where it's suggesting to me all of the terms. And then incarceration, right? Incarceration, and then I'm going to use all of those terms. And then adults, right? That's my population. I'm going to go for adults or middle age. Okay, then I'm going to do my search. This is Academic Search Complete, a database that's good for any topic, any subject area that you're looking for. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick out all of these other stuff, the periodicals, the videos, and I'm just going to keep the peer-reviewed articles. And this time I'm also going to select full text, because I want to read all the articles that are available right now in PDF, and I can tell because the little PDF tool has come out here. Okay, so then what I would do is I'd have to kind of go through here and sort of evaluate my results. So one of the ways that I like to evaluate my results after I've, used all of my filters for academic journal articles is I like going in here to subject thesaurus term, because what it does is if I click that little arrow and then I click show more, it tells me from those 300 articles that are in here, or let's see, how many articles do I have? Yeah, 369. If I go down here to subject or thesaurus term, express that little triangle and then go to show more, it tells me that 89 of those are about subject abuse, prisoners, correctional institution, and maybe adults. Okay, and then the other element that I'm looking for is like drug abuse, right? So now I can limit those results, and it'll have fewer articles for me to look at, but it's going to be more focused. So here I have all like this orange and white stuff. That's my search history so far. Okay, so then I'm going to go through here and kind of figure out, what these articles are saying to me. And then remember that I have more databases to search from, right? I'm just kind of searching for one, or searching in one. And what I like to do is, for instance, with this case, what I would do is I would go up here to choose databases, and I would do what's called a federated search. That's just a fancy way of saying searching 2 or more databases at once. And so Academic Search Complete is good for everything, all topics, all subjects. But now I'm going to go to choose databases, and I'm going to select the one that is for criminal justice abstracts, right? And then I'm also probably going to search for psych info, because psych info is really good with like research in psychology. So it's called APA Psych Info. Here it is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm searching 3 databases: Academic Search Complete, APA Psych Info, and criminal justice abstracts. Earlier, I had 176 hits. Now I'm going to have a lot more. Okay, 3,000, which is still kind of a lot. And I want to full text it. I want to peer review it. I want to academic journal it. Okay, and then also I kind of want to see like the most current research. So I'm going to change that to 2015 to capture last 10 years or so of research. I'm going to roll down so I skip through this whole search history of mine. It just defaults in that way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of like read through here, for instance, association between contact with mental health and substance use services and reincarceration after release from prison. Okay, I think that one might be helpful to me. So now what I'm going to do is start using these little folders here. So this is sort of like a top level evaluation based on the title of your article. Does it make sense? Do you kind of want to read a little bit more just based on the title? Lifetime risks and correlates of incarceration in nationally representative sample of U.S. adults. Okay, maybe not. Okay, and as I roll through here, I'm thinking that maybe number 8 might be good. Actually, now that I think about it, number 9 might be good as well. History of alcohol use and severity of suicide. Okay, so that one's about juvenile programs and juvenile imprisonment and alcohol use. And maybe I do want to read this one about the lifetime risk correlates. Okay, so if I've selected all of those, maybe this one too, Beyond Pain and Gain. So now that I've selected all of these possible good articles that later I would have to, dig deeper and read, what I'm going to want to do is roll up to the very top, click on folder, and you're going to see the consolidated list of those 6 articles that I found across 3 databases. Now I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to use one of those tools, email tool, and I'm going to email these articles to myself. Do I have to use my Cal State L.A. email address? Yes, I do. And the reason why is because these articles are behind a firewall. They're not available for free online. So in order for me to access them, I have to go through my Cal State L.A. Okay, so I put my email there. I'm just going to select APA because that's the format I use, send it. And in about 5 minutes or so, I'm going to see these links show up in my inbox. Okay, so I want to show another cool trick or tool that's called controlled vocabulary versus or also known as thesaurus. And the reason why this is important is because when you're doing advanced research, you're gonna probably get used to using 2 databases frequently, okay? So if you're doing criminal justice, you might be working with criminal justice abstracts and then also PsycInfo together. Or you might be working with CINA, one of our nursing databases, and PsycInfo together. Or in the case of education or counseling, you might be using ERIC and PsycInfo together. And that's actually the example I'm going to show you right now. So when I go to ERIC, let me close some of these. Sometimes I'm thinking of the word, let's say learning. That's the way I know how to say it, right? That's the term I'm using. But if you go up here to thesaurus, okay, so let me just show how I did that again. So I went to my subject databases in child family studies. I clicked on ERIC, and then I got to ERIC. I could see the name of it here. And then I'm going to go to thesaurus. And when I go to thesaurus, what it's going to tell me is what term are you looking for? So I'm looking for learning. How does the database, what vocabulary does the database use to describe learning? Okay, so I'm going to go to learning, and it's going to show me, good question. Do we always have to use EBSCO? No. Before we leave, I'm going to show another database, okay? Learning. So if I go here to learning, it's going to give me all of those terms that further describe types of learning. And this becomes important when you start doing more specialized research. So when I'm also searching in PsycInfo, I might be typing in PsycInfo the word learning. But if I go to APA Thesaurus for PsycInfo and I type learning, you're going to see that learning here is a little bit different. Experimental learning, there's even stuff on behavioral, animal learning, cognitive hypothesis testing. And the reason why these terms are different compared to ERIC is because ERIC is a database that specializes in education research. And so the terminology they're using is coming from education disciplinary research. And PsycInfo is a database that's used for psychology research. And so the terminology they're using is coming from all aspects of psychology and psychological research. And so they might have different terminology. So that's sort of more advanced as you're starting to do specialized research. So there was a question in here about, do we always have to use EBSCO? No, absolutely not. EBSCO is just one company, but there are many different types of types of databases. So let me go back to our databases A through Z to show you some other databases. Okay, so now I'm going to go to databases. And there's a database that is called JSTOR that has tons of academic research in it, from humanities sort of research to the social sciences. So I'm going to go to J for JSTOR because that's what it's called. I know it off the top of my head, JSTOR. Okay, and so here is JSTOR, and I'm gonna let's see, I'm gonna try to do the one up about music, so I can cite a music journal. Okay, music, and I'm just gonna do learning. Okay, and now I'm looking for articles. Okay, so they all kind of look, these databases, they all kind of look different, but they all sort of have the same tools. So let's go maybe to cultural studies. I wonder if there's one in here that's just on music. Okay, yeah, music. Okay. And there probably is one on like American studies. Okay, right. Okay. So now I'm gonna do my search. And let me try to, where is that search box? Okay, so I'm gonna submit my advanced search. And then here are some articles. Okay, these are all peer-reviewed academic articles. So if I want this article, you'll notice that the tools are the same. They just have sort of, they're in different places, but they're pretty much universal tools. So if I click here, I'm going to get into the actual full text of it. And what I want to do is download it. Okay, so I'm going to accept the download. Okay, now I want to know how to cite this journal. And this is coming from the Bulletin of the Council for Research in Music Education. So I'm basically going to copy that. And then from our Cal State L.A. library page, I already know that I can search by journal title. So I'm going to click here, journal. And I'm going to enter in the name of the journal and then search. And this is my journal. So to cite it, you're probably citing an article in this journal. Okay, so I'm going to click in here. And then, okay, I can get to this journal by going into JSTOR. And then I can, like, for instance, see all of the articles that have been published in the Bulletin of the Council for Research in Music Education. And then I can click on the latest issue. And then when I have my my article, right? Okay, like for instance, let's just choose that one. I can also use my cite tool to get like a starting citation for it. Okay, and if I'm using APA, this would be my citation for it. I can also use this cite tool here to pull the citation. All right, does that make sense? So so the other thing I want to say is that we're going to have an APA workshop coming up pretty soon for Library Live. It's going to be on November 15th and November 29th, where we're going to cover the ins and outs of APA citation. But meanwhile, what I would like to leave you with is my favorite page online, my favorite web page for APA. Right, because Jose, you've anticipated my question. Is the APA citation always correct? No, it's often not always. It's often not correct. Okay, so like if we're looking at that one, one of the things that I'm noticing is that I think this is maybe not even an APA. And so what I want to do is I want to reconcile my citation against the actual way to cite it, like the rules of citation in APA or whatever manual I'm using. Okay, so if I go under references here, and I go to, like, let's say reference examples, it's going to have examples for how to cite a journal article. Okay, which is what we've been looking at today for the most part. So this is the example of how to do an appropriate APA citation. And you'll notice that when I am in the databases and let's say I'm going to use the citation tool. Okay, I'm just going to copy it. And then on a Word document, let's say I'm going to paste it. Oh, okay, that's not working. Okay, sorry, everybody. Okay, let me just sort of copy it like this. If I'm going to paste it on my Word or on a paper, like a Word document, what I would want to also do is go here to like the actual rules of citation and make it be the same, like reconcile it. Okay, so this blue part, that's my model or my pattern. All right, so the first part, McDonald, comma, space, J, period, S, that looks right. The year, right? That looks correct as well. Parentheses followed by a period. Here's where the mistake is. So in APA, you'll notice that the titles are lowercase, except for the first word in the title and the first word of the subtitle and any proper nouns. So here, all of that needs to be lowercase except for the first word, exploring. So I do little a, this little tool up here, and I lowercase everything. And then I go back here and I make that capital. Then I notice that this is my journal title, comma, and the volume number is all italicized. That looks correct to me. Okay. And then that comma needs to not be italicized. So let me not make it italicized followed by the page number. So the rest of this looks fine. The other thing that I would do with this is I would double space it. I would go to line spacing options. So I could give it a hanging indent and then give it a double space. This is kind of a preview to the APA workshop, but that's what I would do. And that's an excellent question. In art history, the preferred style is Chicago. That's right. So at Cal State L.A. Library, and this is maybe the last thing I'll leave you with, over here on the left-hand side of our quick tools or quick links, we have this thing called writing and citing. And so then you would go in here to find your citation style that's used for your disciplinary area. So you can find a guide on Chicago. If you're doing the notes bibliography style for Chicago, I would pull that handout. The APA handout is here. That's a very helpful one. Okay, so I think we've reached the end of our database deep dive. And throughout the presentation, I covered all of these tools, really. So what I want to leave you with is just my contact information. And you're welcome to reach me at any point, Al Terron at calstatela.edu. That's me, Leti Terrones. And yeah, I'll stick around if there are any particular questions. But that'll bring us to the conclusion of our presentation.